And welcome to this storytelling workshop that's going to describe how social enterprises use storytelling. And so, Nikki, can you please project the slide with the outline of our presentation today, of our workshop?
Yes, of course. So here's the outline.
Right. So what we want to, you've all been doing work on storytelling and digital media, and you've done a lot of good work so far. This is what we would call an advanced storytelling workshop because we're giving you tips and tools and tricks to be able to further develop your skills and more effectively tell stories. And so I'll say a little bit about that. Then we'll begin thinking a little bit about how we want to communicate certain kinds of messages and stories, where they fit, and how social enterprises use them. And then Nikki and Marissa will be doing some specific work around these with each of you, and we'll do some brainstorming so that this is a workshop, not just a talk shop. Okay. Let me, good morning. Welcome, Sister Josephine. Good to see you. Glad you can join us. There are really, we could say there's two fundamental ways in which social entrepreneurs use storytelling. They use storytelling to share their vision with others and to recruit them to participate in some way with their mission. Okay, so the one way is to recruit them to work with them in some way, perhaps as partners, perhaps as employees, perhaps even in your cases as students or as apprentices or as outgrowers. So it's to communicate to people about how to collaborate. That's one way. That audience is largely usually someone who's physically close to you in your own country. Okay, so that's good. But another one that we want to focus on this one specifically is to focus on stories and messages that can reach people who are donors, impact investors, and benefactors. And those are people that are farther away that will probably never visit your farm. Okay, so there's value to both, but we want to really focus on the second one, which is about thinking about how storytelling can recruit and thank people who are providing funding to support you. This is important, not just for the sake of saying thank you, but also for being accountable to them. And so this is a big thing with social entrepreneurship, is when there's money, funding, resources provided to a social enterprise, there's accountability back to the donor or benefactor to tell them what their funding has done to allow the social enterprises to succeed. And so that's really we want to make sure that not only are you saying, oh, this is an interesting activity, these strange people from Santa Clara are giving us another idea. It's more than that. It's really thinking about how you grow as a social enterprise and grow in your social enterprise leadership skills involves being accountable for what you have received and being accountable by sharing back with the people who've provided funding so that they know where their funding has gone and what it's done, and they can see the people, and it's got some numbers and it's got some human stories. That together is what is gratitude, but it's also accountability. So there, yeah. So now I'm going to ask Nikki if you would please talk a little bit about two story structures.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you, Keith. Let me share my screen again, and I'll get started with a few slides. So I think that some of you sisters might be familiar with these story structures already, but maybe you have a name for them called story structures, or maybe this is just a methodology that comes naturally to you. So we're going to look at two story structures, and we're going to look at how you might be able to use those in your impact storytelling with your social enterprise in your congregation. So first, I'm curious, is anyone familiar with the 2-act structure? Has anyone heard of that? Sister Agatha, maybe, Sister Junza, the 2-act structure, or Sister Edna? Maybe Sister Christine as well. No worries if not. Okay, no, no worries. I'm sure that Sister Junza, did you have something to add?
No.
Okay, so I'm sure that this is something that you've used before, whether or not you know. So let me show you what the three-act structure, I apologize, I misspoke. So the three-act structure consists of three main parts, and this can be applied to many stories that you would tell, many different types of stories. And you structure them in this way to have an emotional impact for the reader. And to what Brother Keith was saying, as far as who you would want to tell stories to on social media, digital stories, this might be to donors. And having a structure such as the three-act structure allows you to more succinctly, kind of shortly, and more powerfully tell your story so that it packs more of an emotional punch. So Sister Junza, could I ask you to read number 1?
Number one is the setup, and this one entails that we set the scene and introduce the characters or the character in that scene.
Very good. Thanks, Sister Junza. Yeah, so that is a pretty straightforward part of the story. You just kind of introduce people who are going to be involved in your story. And then maybe Sister Christine, would you be able to read number 2?
Number 2, confrontation or rising action. That is, present a problem and build up the tension.
Definitely. Thank you, Sister Christine. So in your story, perhaps in number 1, the setup, you introduce your characters, maybe you're making a video, and you introduce the sisters who are participating in your video. In number 2, the confrontation or rising action, when you're presenting a problem, maybe you talk about the difficulties that they face. And then number 3, maybe Sister Agnes, are you available to read number 3?
The solution resolves the problem.
Very good. Thank you. So number 3 is relatively simple. And so whatever problem that you present in number 2, in number 3, you want to present a resolution, a solution to that issue. And so I know this is a bit theoretical, sisters. And so what I want to do to make this a bit more concrete is show you a short video that represents this structure very well. Okay, so okay, Grassland, Cameroon. Okay. Can you all see this, sisters?
Yes.
Oh, actually, I'll need to share my sound with you as well, so you're able to hear it. Okay.
Yeah, most of the food consumed are produced by smallholder
Can you hear this?
Yes.
Okay.
rural farmers. They are the most underserved group with little or no access to farm resources, and even when it's available, it's quite expensive. Hence the low risk, low yield mentality of those farmers. The first picture in this slide, you'd see this is Mrs. Lydia Isa. She's a mother of 3, and she's married to her husband who has 2 other wives. 2 of her children are out of school, and she could barely feed herself and her family from the little piece of land she cultivates, as the food produced cannot last them till the next harvest season. The other picture is of a community called Takuti Shaba, which is about 105 kilometers away from the main town. In this community, they also don't have access to farm resources due to bad access road. And the women in this community don't farm, and they don't have access to land to do this farming. And they are also not allowed to attend training programs either. So these are the challenges that both the women in these communities, women farmers, and the rural smallholder farmers in these communities face. And we came about, then Farm and Ways developed a solution, a comprehensive pack of inputs and services to mitigate this problem. Our solution includes providing the farmers with training on modern farm practices and proper application methods. We provide them also with inputs such as quality seeds, fertilizer, and agrochemicals on credit at 0% interest rate. We provide storage facility and market linkage. And this solution has increased their production capacity by 100% and their yield and income by 80%. And this now gives
Okay, sisters. Was everyone able to see that video well? Okay, very good. So that's an example of the 3-act structure. And so if you noticed, let me go back to this slide. The first thing that happened was that the video introduced the main character, Lydia, and gave background on smallholder farmers in her area. And then number 2, they presented the confrontation or the rising action and the difficulties that women such as Lydia have being smallholder farmers. And then they presented number 3, which was the social enterprises. Oh, sorry, I didn't know if you were able to see that. And then they presented number 3 of the 3-act structure, where they resolved the problem with different solutions that the social enterprise offers. So that is the 3-act structure. How does that sound, sisters? Sound okay right now? Okay, let me quickly show you one more structure then. And hopefully as we go through these, you can think about how you might be able to use these story structures in your stories, in your digital stories. Okay, so here is the second formula that I want to show you, the second structure. And this one is called Dale Carnegie's magic formula structure. And so on some levels, it's similar to the 3-act structure. It still has 3 main components, 3 main parts, but they're a little bit different. And so the first one, I'll just read them this time, is incident. So the first thing you'll do in this formula, in this structure, is share a relevant personal experience. And so the difference here is that in before, where it talked about Lydia being a smallholder farmer, this one might talk about your own experience as Sister Christine or as Sister Edna or Sister Gaudencia, something that you've truly experienced yourself. The second component is action, and it describes the action taken to solve or prevent a problem. So I would say that's self-explanatory. You describe the problem that occurs in your story. And number 3, the last part of the story is the benefit. And in this part of the story, you state the benefits of the action that you took. And so to make this a little bit more concrete again, I'm going to share a quick video with you. Oops. Okay. Please let me know if you cannot hear the sound.
We can't see anything, Nikki.
Can't see
Oh,
it.
there we go. All good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm gonna play it now.
Thanks for connecting.
Model works. Well, I'd like to share with you a wondering how we are certain that our model works. Well, I'd like to share with you a case study of a lady called Mbuya Rufandike. So Mbuya Rufandike, when I first met her, I remember she had a bent back and cracked feet. I sat down and I started talking to her about what her farming practices were like. And she mentioned that she harvests 250 kgs a hectare. And then she sells a bit of that and makes about $60. That is the only income she has the whole year. And that is way below the World Health average. Currently, she said she doesn't have any markets. What she does is that she sits on the side of the road and she hopes someone will stop by and buy something. When we looked at the equipment she was using, we realized she was using a hand hoe. This is probably the reason why her back was bent. We offered her the program and she came to our training day. We taught her good agriculture practices. We connected her to a mentor. We also supported her with equipment that we had on the farm, which was a tractor to till her land, a planter to plant the seed, and a boom sprayer so that we can spray her crop against pests.
Oh no, okay. I've gotten a message that you can't hear. Is that correct?
Yeah, we can't hear.
Yes, the
You can't hear,
volume is
okay.
low.
I think there might be difficulties with this video, and so I'm just going to stop the video there. And instead, I'll send that video to you later, sisters, if you want to try to watch it on your own.
Okay.
But essentially, are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah, essentially, these are the three main parts: the incident, action, and benefit. And one of the differentiating factors, one of the differences between this and the 3-act structure is that the first story that it started out with was a personal experience from the sister, or for the woman who was telling the story. And so that's one of the ways that you can communicate impact, is by personal experience. So there's also many other story structures, and these are structures that I can share with you after the presentation, and you can look at them on your own and utilize them in your digital stories. Great. So I think that Keith or Marissa?
Yeah, so I was able to hear a little bit of that video, and what was really helpful, I thought, about it is like they had like a before. Here was a situation of a woman who was in poverty and not selling anything. Then she worked with the social enterprise, got training, got access to markets, and then she was able to increase her income by more than 10 times. So that's really an example of like, first there's a problem, then there's something that's done by the social enterprise, and then the person who's the partner has a more dignified life. So I share that with you because that's a good example of how one good way to do a story structure. And so now I want to say, you know, as we think about as you think about writing stories and creating little video stories that you can share with benefactors and impact investors, here are a couple of themes that you can use. I don't know if these are on slides or if I should just announce them orally, Nikki.
They're not on slides.
Okay, so I'll just, I'm going to paste these into the chat box so that everybody can see them. And these would be useful for you to think about, because they're sort of examples of how you can begin approaching this. There's why we exist and how we address a community need. There's how our social enterprise takes people who are socially excluded and includes them. So that's an example of that farming woman we saw is a good example of that. Another is an expression of gratitude, and we're going to see a gratitude one in a few minutes. Then another one is how this investment has allowed your social enterprise to be able to have an impact on a community, and then it's showing people, oh, you know, they now have a door where they didn't have a door on their house, or they now have access to more food, or their children now have uniforms. These kinds of illustrations that explain what the numbers look like in people's lives. But it's always powerful when you can say that there are numbers, and then here's the human story, and you put them together. That's very persuasive. It's good to be able to see numbers. Now you're all still just getting started, so you don't have large numbers, but it's also good to combine the numbers with the human story. So now I'm going to pass this off to Marissa, and she's going to lead us in a little section where we're going to analyze an existing video that is, I think, a very good example. Over to you, Marissa.
Yeah, thank you. First, I'm going to share my screen, and if we can make it work, I would love for us to watch the video that Sister Christine and the Assumption Sisters of Eldoret put together. Hold on.
There we go.
A congregation on the reception of the incubator from the funds granted by Otoboni Fund. And the postulants have this to say.
Hello viewers, we are postulants of the Assumption Sisters of Eldoret, and we have been assisting in taking care of poultry initiative. We have benefited so much, more especially in gaining the skills in poultry farming, eggs, and also meat as its product. Today, we are encouraged because we are seeing the social enterprise growing. As you can see, today we are receiving the incubator that we are going to hatch our own chicks in our own farm and also to sell them in the local women in Turbo region. Thank you.
On behalf of the Assumption Sisters of Eldoret, we are very grateful to God that Otoboni Funds have enabled us to receive this incubator. It will help us to take care of our elderly sisters, our growing sisters, and the community at large. Welcome.
What returns to Yahweh can I make? What returns to Yahweh can I make? For blessings of every kind from Him that I have received.
I'm going to stop it there, even though the rest of the song is just as beautiful, just so we can get into our discussion. And so I would love to invite Sister Christine. Yes, thank you so much for that video and for allowing us to use it in the demonstration, Sister Christine and Sister Agatha. And so I think before we begin our discussion about why that was such a successful video and what are some of the most successful elements, I'd love to invite Sister Christine and Sister Agatha to share a little bit about their process and some of the things that they hope to highlight through the video. Sister Christine, Sister Agatha, if you would like to share.
Thank you, Marisa. And we want to appreciate Miller Center for acknowledging our presentation. Our dear sister congregations, the way we present and produce our videos, first of all, we think of why do we want to produce a video? What is the objective of this video? Whom are we targeting in this video? And what message do we want to share with our other social enterprise? So normally we discuss with Sister Akada, Sister Agnes. We also involve our FOMIS postulants because they are a part of it, to tell them that, look here, you want to share your giftedness with other social enterprise, and we would like you to be part of it. Say it for yourself. We also think as a congregation, who is really supporting this initiative? We realized that it is also our Superior General, so we involve her. And to reach where we are, we go back and try to ask ourselves, where did we begin from? Who is involved in seeing us to this level in social enterprise? What role does each of them play in this social enterprise? And what is our focus? What is our destination? What do we want to achieve? That is the social impact. So it is after that, then we don't write it down. We don't practice for long. We take it as the really passion we have for our social enterprise. In fact, in the first place, we do it as a fun, as a joke, and we realize something good is coming out. So then we say, we do it the first time, we listen to it, we say, no, this one is not for public. This one is for ourselves. This one, it is for our collaborators. This one is for our mentors, the local mentors. This one will be for our, like that. And then we say, how many minutes or how long would we want it to take? So we compress and say, we summarize. And funny enough or good enough, if you ask me to repeat the same thing I have said, I won't repeat it because it is off head. So that's how we do it. We may do it the first round, we say maybe it has taken long. No, we want to have it this short. The information that is in this one, we keep it to ourselves, or it is not necessary to share. So we focus on what we want other people to see, hear, and if they can learn anything from us, we thank God. Well and good.
Thank you so much, Sister Christine. And I would just like to open it to any of the other sisters who would like to share some of the most powerful aspects of the video of the Assumption Sisters, some things that perhaps you can see as being valuable for not just their video, but for your replication for your videos in the future. I can start with something if people would like. I would say one of the things that stands out the most is just, as Sister Christine was saying, the passion, the authenticity. As she and I talked about in a previous meeting, the point of these videos is not to show something other than the reality of what the situation is, of how the farm looks. There's no reason to present anything else. And showing the reality is going to be the most authentic. And so in the video, you can hear the chickens in the background and the incubator just as it is, and it's perfect, and it makes the video so much more authentic, and it makes you feel like you're really there. And so that would be one of the most powerful aspects of what was shown.
I'm going to ask Sister Junza a question. Sister Junza, if you could unmute. You know, about a year ago, you came to the United States and were able to take the story, the words, the papers and documents and plans of the Emerging Farmers Institute to California. But if you were to do that with a video today, how would that be different than sharing a document or a personal story? Well, what would you try to convey, given what you saw when you were in California for about a week? Does it look like and feel like your farm, like your Emerging Farmers Institute?
Okay. At that time, really, everything was still very conceptual. We hadn't put much on the ground. It was a big thought, a big dream, just documented. And we hadn't started doing much at that time. I think when I was that side, that's when they were beginning to face the land. Nothing much was already done. But if we were to do a video this time, there would be something to show of what the dream has been. Somebody would be able to connect what they've read in the document and what is on the ground. And then I think even the passion would be different, because we'd be talking about something that you can see, you can point at, something you can show people. It's not just something that is in the head. Now it's something that is on the ground. So like we saw the work that the sisters are doing, Sister Christine and Tim, you have something to point at, other people have come on board, and this passion is being shared. It's very infectious, by the way. In fact, more infectious than COVID-19. You will even pass it on to other people. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking it would.
Thank you, Sister Junza. I think I would just add sort of on what Sister Ginger was saying about how other people have come on board, and so how Sister Christine and Sister Agatha were able to involve the postulants who are part of their efforts and their Mother Superior. It really shows that the entire congregation has taken ownership and that it's benefiting and being enjoyed by a wider range of people. And so if you have other people whose stories you want to share, perhaps following Sister Christine's example and being able to allow them to speak for themselves and express their own gratitude can be a very effective and positive way to get those stories across to your audience.
For example, I know that you have plans to engage women as outgrowers, and so learning how to help those outgrowers feel comfortable on camera, speaking in the local language, and in you translating would be super interesting to people in the United States who would like have no idea what that looks like or what that feels like. So that's part of, like, most Americans have never been to a farm. If you didn't tell them that that was an incubator, they wouldn't know what they were looking at. It looks like the back of a van. So the fact is that you have to explain these things to poor Mzungus who don't understand what farming really looks like. And that it's, you know, that's the visual. And then when people can hear it, they get a sense of, oh, this is what they're doing. They're working with the earth. They're working with people to help them grow food and eat food. That's really powerful.
Yes, definitely. Thank you guys so much. I would like to pass it over to Nikki, and she's going to lead the next part of the discussion. Thank you, Sister Christine and Sister Agatha, for letting us use your video.
That was lovely. Thank you all. So we're going to do a quick activity around planning your video story. And so I know some of you have done this before and have created really great videos already, but I'll give you a little bit of structure and we can start thinking about new stories that you can tell, or for sisters who haven't yet shared or created a video story, I'll share some, or we'll talk about stories that you might be able to share in a video form. So I'm first going to share with you step one. So your main audience is current and potential funders. And the question that step one answers is, what do you want them to know? By the way, this is an 8-step process, but we're only going to go over 2 steps in depth. So what do you want your funders, your potential and your current funders to know? And then sisters, I'd love for you to take a minute to talk in your group, or if you're on your own, just to think for a minute about what you would want them to know, and we can come back in a minute.
So sisters, I know, for example, Sister Junza and Sister Edna are in different places, and I know that Sister Gadencia and Sister Maria Goretti are in different places. Maybe you want to just pick up the phone and call each other for a minute while you discuss this, so that you can talk to each other to do this work, so you're not isolated. How long are you going to give them, Nikki?
Just a minute. So
1 minute, okay.
Just for the sake of time.
Unfortunately, hi, Sister Josephine Maroon. My sisters are staying in a different area and they have not yet connected. So there's nobody I can share with.
No worries, Sister Josephine. You also tend to have lots of good ideas on your own. So if you want to just take some time to think independently, that'd be really lovely too. And later on, you can collaborate with the other sisters.
Okay. Maybe I can share the route I've thought of.
Okay, sisters, I'd love for you to come on back. And Sister Josephine, what have you said? I didn't catch that.
Maybe I can share the route I've thought of, because for me, I'm alone. I'm not with the group. But looking at the requirement, what do your funders, what do you want them to know?
Mm-hmm.
First, they should know the idea or your dream, really what you want to achieve in the project. And then you talk about the challenges you have and maybe what you may need, like the funds to accomplish that dream.
Yeah, that's definitely a good idea, Sister Josephine.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Any other sisters would like to share what you might want your audience to know?
Yes.
Sister Junza, would you like
I
to
would
go?
like to share also.
And then,
Christine and Sister Kada.
And then Sister Christine can go after.
I start?
I think Sister Edna has started talking. Sister Edna, are you talking?
Go ahead, Junza.
Okay. We said for the current funders, would want them to know the stage at which the project is, maybe the project that they have funded. We update them on how far we have gone. Would also want them to know the impact of their funding, like to what extent is it helping us to realize the dream? Because without it, we wouldn't have gone that far. So we'd want them to know really in appreciation that their help has helped us move on with the dream. And then to the potential funders, would want to communicate the remaining, remember that the dream is bigger than the funds that would have at a given time. So usually the funds that would receive would answer part of the need, but there would be something remaining. So for the potential farmers, would love them to know that there's a part of the dream that has not yet been realized because of the lack of funds, hence we present it to them. I think that's the major thing, that they also get to know what we are doing in order for them to maybe feel like helping out to complete the picture.
Very good. Thank you, Sister Junza. Yeah, I think you brought up several really valuable points and kind of expressing gratitude with what you already have from the funders, and then also expressing whether explicitly or kind of implicitly within your story that there's still more funding that would help. And then also just showing your activities and how their funding is impacting the work that you're doing. That's really great. Thank you, Sister Junza. Sister Christine, did you also have something to share?
More or less the same, because we had also shared that our current funders would want to know what impact has their funds made since we received it, in terms of economically, financially, and even psychologically, because someone feels is motivated, morale, he's really uplifted. Then and again, they would want to know in terms of how many at the moment, and how many are we anticipating that should this project grow, how many people will be reached. They will also want to know that how is it as helping or changing our life as a congregation as well? Because as we are working at it, it is not only for the community, it is as well for us as a congregation. What impact is it making to us as a congregation? Then for potential funders, we would want to share with them the far we have come and those who have supported us up to that point, and the remaining bit in order for us to accomplish our whole dream. And we are telling them, if we get this amount of money, it will help us to achieve our objective. Thank you.
Very good, Sister Christine.
Sister Christine, those are all really great. Those are all really great examples, great ideas, each one of them. But I would just say this, that each one of them probably deserves its own short video. That if you had all of those in one video, it would be hard for people to figure out exactly what you were trying to say. So I would suggest that each one of those things that you listed, I heard about 4 or 5 of them, would be a good short video. In some ways, so I would say those are all great, and make them small enough so that they can be seen. Like 2 or 3 minutes is great. And the other thing I would say is having the story told through the experience of a person that's engaging, that's telling their story, or you're telling their story with pictures, images, testimony. Those would all strengthen each of those. But they're all great ideas.
Thank you.
Definitely have to use people's faces. That's one of the things that made your video powerful. I've seen some stories that show people's backsides, and people don't respond well to backsides, to showing the backs of people. It's just not interesting.
Thank you. Thank you, Brother Keith, for those insights.
All right, so I'm going to move to the next step. Thank you, everyone, for sharing. Thank you, Brother Keith. So step 2 is this. So what is a story that you might tell your audience that communicates what you want them to know? And so I think Brother Keith made a great point, is that you probably want the audience to know so many different things. You want them to know why you're grateful. You want them to know how it's impacting you, how it's impacting your community. But realistically, you might need to choose 1, maybe 2 of those ideas. And so I'd love for you, well, let's see. Keith, do we have a minute to do kind of separate conversation again, or should we just?
Yeah, sure. Sisters, we started about 10 minutes late. We're going to go till about well, it'll be about 6:40. Is that okay with everyone? Can we go 10 extra minutes? Okay.
Okay, lovely.
Fine.
It's okay. It's okay.
Good. Okay, thank you, sisters. Thank you, Keith. And so the main question, what is a story that you might tell that communicates what you want the audience to know? I would love if you all again took a minute or 2 and either called your group or talked amongst your group, or Sister Josephine, if you just did some brainstorming on your own, and we can come back in a minute to discuss. Okay, sisters, if you can start coming back and finishing up your conversations, and then share anything with the group, that would be lovely. Okay. Sister Agatha, maybe Sister Christine or Sister
Yes.
Edna.
We have just discussed with Sister Christine. It is like this similar with what we were saying there earlier, but we want to share to our audience the practical part of ourselves, not just like in the theory form, but what we are doing on the ground, to see it and to even to read if we have a story to write. So that's what I'm feeling that we should communicate to our audience, so they may not be wondering who are these people, who is this person. But if we come plainly with our practical way of doing things, it will help us a lot. Thank you.
Definitely.
Hello.
Thank you, Sister Agatha. Was someone else speaking?
For us, would tell of a story of a farmer that is struggling, that doesn't know what to do. When there's too much rain, he's stranded. When there's a drought, he doesn't know what to do. And from that, that's what EFI is trying to do. How does it help a farmer to be comfortable when it's dry, when it's not dry, so that they are able to help themselves have a living, even both situations where they are struggling? How do we mitigate their situation? How do we help them to give them skills so that they are able to live in all weathers? So that's the story that we would want to tell our audience.
Thank you. Was that Sister Edna?
Yeah, that was.
Yes.
Thank you, Sister Edna. Yeah, I think you brought up a really great point that people respond to stories well when they're personal, when they're emotional, and when they can involve people on the ground where you are. And so if you can bring out those emotions and tell the authentic story of one of the farmers or someone who's benefiting, that it can be really impactful in these video stories. Thank you, Sister Edna. And Sister Gaudencia, did you have something to add? I saw you raised your hand.
Thank you, Nikki. I'm sorry I missed most of the parts of the what we have discussed, especially about the first question.
Yes, my turn.
Or step one, because of my network.
Sister June, with my phone number, incubator.
I had to switch to the phone. So, but what I see here as our question, what you want us to say is what the story I would communicate to someone who already knows what they want to know. So I would give them what they want to know, but add something that I also would like them to know. For example, in our farm, we would want them to know the impact we have created. And so if they ask a specific thing that they want to know, we would give them that, but also we would create a story that gives them what they want to know, but also something more.
Good. I think that's a good approach, Sister Gaude.
Can you say that again?
Yes, I think that's a good approach. Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you now.
Yeah, I think that in some instances where you understand explicitly what the donor would like to see, then it's important that you have those aspects and also include the creative storytelling that you want to include of what's really happening at Benya Teresa Coffee Farm. And yeah, so thank you for sharing that, Sister Gaude.
You're welcome.
And did someone else want to contribute as well?
Sister Josephine?
Sister Josephine?
Yes, just giving an example of coffee growing. I think I would share a story step by step, like holding the holes where to plant the coffee. Then I also share a story when I'm planting and different stages when the coffee is growing. And also all the people helping, like the workers who are helping in digging. So if I can share all those stories step by step, real, somebody I'm communicating may want to know that. And I think to be giving a good picture of what is taking place at the garden. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Josephine. Yeah, as Brother Keith mentioned earlier, a lot of these people who will see your stories, a lot of the donors may never visit your farm in person. And so giving them the experience through a video can be very impactful of what's truly happening. And I think Sister Christine and Sister Agatha mentioned that earlier as well. So thank you for sharing that, Sister Josephine. I think that's a great idea. So yes, Brother Keith, please.
I think that's a great idea, Sister Josephine, but I would just suggest the following, that helping to connect the planting and growing of the coffee with how that has an impact on people's lives and how that results in hopes and dreams and more income and better food in the household for the farmers, more uniforms and more school, so that people can see the relationship between the activity in the earth, but also the activity, how that results in people's lives being improved. That's the trick, because ultimately people need to know about the farm, but they're not investing in it just because it's a farm. They're making an investment because it's engaging in changing the well-being of people that are associated with the farm. So having that human connection is important.
Okay. All right. Wonderful. Well, thank you everyone for sharing. And just briefly, there are several other steps, and probably Sister Christine has her own method, and whoever tells stories probably has their own method to how they go about creating their video story. But if you need some structure, I'll share these steps with you after the workshop. And we do ask you that one of these ideas that you have discussed today, you submit a video of impact storytelling to Marissa and I by the end of this month. And we would love to see what you come up with. We would love to see a video story from you. So if you need extra support, we're here for that. And lovely. Okay, so I think that, Keith, I think it's your turn now.
Thank you, sisters, for your participation. It's lovely to see all of you and to hear of your enthusiasm. Thank you again.